The Indiana Pacers currently have an offensive rating of over 122, which is the highest by any team in NBA history. But when Tyrese Haliburton is on the court, that rating jumps to a ridiculous 125.2. And with the Pacers offense, everything starts with their pace. Indiana is currently generating 27 points per game in transition, which is the most across the league, and this is where Haliburton thrives.
It bounces to Haliburton, the no look to top it.
Now, one of the hardest things to do in basketball is defend in transition, because when the offense is pushing the pace, the defense has both no time to get set or dictate matchups, which leaves them vulnerable to breakdowns all over the court. And Tyrese with the ball on the break is elite at finding the defense's soft spots, and he does this by making these easy and early passes, which may not be super flashy or dynamic, but they do lead to high quality shots. Right here you'll see Tyrese pushing after this miss, and before he even crosses half court, he's going to zip the ball across to Mathurin, who now has all this space to comfortably flow into a three. Another pass Haliburton commonly gets is this lob to his center right in the paint, and again these looks commonly open up because of Indiana's pace. Like on this play, you'll notice how Giannis here is late converting back, which leaves the paint wide open. And Tyrese from here can just toss the ball over, which then leads to an and one. Now Haliburton is also pretty good at manipulating the defense. Watch him here use his eyes to sell the swing pass, which freezes these two defenders and sets up a corner three. Now Tyrese in transition is also a lethal scoring threat, and it all starts with his 3-point shooting off the dribble. So far this year, Haliburton is shooting a ridiculous 40% on all his pull-up threes, which right now is higher than both Steph and Dame. Now Haliburton does have a pretty unorthodox shot, having both a low release point and getting little to no lift off the floor. But those mechanics do give Tyrese a good amount of range, which allows him to generate looks without having to create a ton of space off the bounce.
Probably the middle to prevent him. Wow.
And because Tyrese is a real outside scoring threat, he calmly extends the defense up well beyond the three, which then opens up his downhill scoring and playmaking. And while I don't think Haliburton has the craziest handle, he does have a really quick first step, while being lengthy, which allows him to stride and extend through these tight gaps. Right here, notice how this defender wants to hold his ground to take away the pull-up three, but from here all Tyrese needs is a simple left to right crossover, which gives him the outside angle and gives him room to extend up into a finish. And again, all these downhill drives stem from Haliburton's outside scoring threat. For example, one of Tyrese's favorite moves is hitting this between the legs, then skating his feet back to separate for a three.
Here's Haliburton again. You're talking about feeling it.
But now watch this play. You'll see Tyrese again go between, then skate his feet back. And notice how he pulls this defender up towards the perimeter, which now gives Haliburton a clear lane to attack into. With the ball, Tyrese also plays with really good pace. He likes to constantly change his level with the ball in order to set up attacking angles. Watch him here put the rock in his right hand, then skip both his feet up. And notice how he's able to slightly pull this defender out of his stance. And from this spot, Haliburton is just going to split his feet and get this between blow by to then draw this defender and set up a corner three. I also think Tyrese is really good at using his pickups to slice through tight gaps. You'll see him here get the step on Patrick Beverley. And notice how he's able to slide right by this help defender by getting to this low pickup. You'll see him hit the same move here, where Tyrese attacks right off the catch, and he punches this low pickup to slide right past the help. Then he draws this defender and opens up the easy dump off pass. Now the next thing we have to go over is Haliburton's game in pick and roll. If you include both points and assists, Tyrese is generating over 26 points per game out of pick and roll, which is so far the highest mark out of any player this year. So when we really dive in and look at Tyrese's pick and roll game, this is where we begin to see his unique playmaking tools. Now, I would argue that there are players across the league who have a better natural basketball feel than Haliburton does. Guys like Trae Young and Luka Doncic, for example. But what I think really separates Tyrese as a playmaker is just the fact that he's a way better athlete than any of those guys. As a passer, Haliburton has a very unorthodox and at times chaotic style of playmaking. In pick and roll, he loves to leave his feet in order to set up passing angles, which is something that may be frowned upon by certain coaches or trainers. But because Tyrese is so long and athletic, he's able to get around some of these unwritten passing rules. For example, one thing Haliburton loves to do in passing out of pick and roll is simply jump up and create playmaking windows over the defense. Right here, you'll see Tyrese working off the screen, and notice how he's going up against the 6'11 Giannis and drop. And from this spot, Tyrese is just going to elevate up and stretch the ball up and over the freak to deliver this dime in the paint. And Tyrese being able to elevate up like this also allows him to briefly scan the entire court. You'll see him here use that same jumping method, but now he reads this weak side defender tagging the roller, so he instead lasers a skip pass to set up an open three. Now on top of Haliburton being long and athletic, he also has really good body control in the air, which allows him to make plays like this, where Tyrese is aggressively attacking the basket full speed, and with his momentum heavily carrying him downhill, Tyrese still has the core strength and body control to whip a pass out across his body that hits his teammate right in his shot pocket. This pass here is pretty wild, where Tyrese again turns the corner, and from this spot, 95% of guards would either keep attacking downhill or spray a kickout pass to one of these two shooters in the corner. However, watch how Tyrese is going to torque his entire body and make this kickout pass behind him back up to the screener. I also think Tyrese is really good at improvising when he gets himself in bad situations. Watch this play. You'll see Haliburton here working off the screen, then come to a 2-foot stop and elevate up for a pull-up. But in mid-air, he decides to change his mind and twist into a pass back to the roller. This pass here is also crazy, where Tyrese jumps up and looks to pass the ball over the defense to the roller. But again, in mid-air, he's going to abort and instead cock the ball back and launch the skip pass to the opposite corner, which creates a scramble for his teammate to attack. Now, similar to his passing in transition, Tyrese is also really good at manipulating the defense. Watch him here put the ball in his right hand, then elevate up and sell the swing pass to the top of the key, which slightly freezes these two defenders and gives the roller way more room off the catch. You'll see him make a similar play here, where again Haliburton is going to turn his head and sell this pass back up to the top. And notice how he completely moves this defender out of position and sets the roller up for an easy catch and finish. Now with Haliburton scoring out of pick and roll, everything comes back to his 3-point shooting off the dribble. Tyrese's ability to simply rise up and punish teams who give him too much airspace off his screens forces his pickup point to be much higher, which also forces defenders to primarily fight over Haliburton's picks, which then opens up more playmaking and scoring opportunities. Right here, notice how the Pacers set this screen 35 feet from the basket. And again, this defender gets quickly out of position when trying to fight over. And when Tyrese is able to easily turn the corner like this, he has countless of passing and scoring options. You'll see the same effect on this play, where DeJounte Murray is trying to pick up the ball 40 feet from the basket. And even when the screener slips, Murray is still out of position, which leads to a clean downhill drive and a lob at the rim. I also think a really underrated part of Haliburton's game is his mid-range scoring. So far this year, Haliburton is shooting an impressive 52% from the mid-range. And what's also interesting is that Tyrese completely transforms his mechanics when getting to these shorter jump shots. You'll notice on these clips when Tyrese elevates into a mid-range look, how he gets way more elevation off the floor, compared to that set shot he has when shooting from behind the three. Now that extra lift allows Tyrese to generate these mid-range looks by simply rising up and over the defense. And on top of that pop off the floor, Haliburton is also a lengthy 6'5", so he can get these shots off by primarily leaning on his physical tools. You'll see the Pacers on this play run a simple ghost screen action for Haliburton, and notice how he gets Darius Garland here on his hip. And from this spot, Tyrese can just come to a simple 2-foot stop and elevate right over him for the jumper. So right now, it's really exciting to see Haliburton already this good at just 23 years old. And it's also going to be really interesting to see how far he can take this Pacers team this year. If you enjoyed the video, please hit the subscribe button. The Kids here.